Hello, welcome back. Christopher Taylor with Sovereign Harmony. Good to see you. So I wanted to check in with you guys here. It's March 9th, Friday, March 9th, 2018. We are post-eclipse now. We had the eclipses on January 31st and February 15th. And we have a Mercury retrograde coming on up here from March 22nd right on through April 15th. So I wanted to touch base, talk about that transition, where we're at now on this other side of the eclipses versus before, and kind of what this Mercury retrograde is gonna lead to. Okay, so it's a nice day here, Carlsbad, California. I've been on the road for a bit here, most of January and February, so I got a little breather here before I go back on the road for a bit. But it's nice to get back here in the sunshine, near the beach and everything else. I know it's still late winter in most places, but I just want to talk about this Mercury retrograde. As you know, it's not only happening in the early spring, but it has a very spring-like energy with it. That is an energy of new beginnings. Okay, I know we always talk about new moons having to do with new beginnings, and they do. But when we talk about the sign of Aries, which is where this Mercury retrograde is happening this time around, it really is kind of like a reset button, kind of starting over and starting from our center, our true center, our authentic center. Okay, but just to review where we've been coming from. So, if you remember a few videos back, Jupiter entered Scorpio in October of 2017. It'll be with us till about November of 2018. So we're not quite halfway through Jupiter and Scorpio, but Jupiter just yesterday on the 8th went retrograde, and so the outer planets go retrograde too. I don't usually talk about them all that much, but Jupiter it goes retrograde every year for about 4 months, so it's not unusual. It just happens to be the time of its retrograde, and it will last till about July. And this Jupiter retrograde is very much tied in with this Mercury retrograde that I'm going to talk about. That's why I want to reintroduce it. And so back in October, Jupiter entered Scorpio, and ever since then, so from about early October till now, early March, we've been uncovering, discovering things that have been hidden within us, personally and collectively, that have been coming out. And so it's pretty easy on the collective level to see what happened literally right after Jupiter entered Scorpio. That was the Weinstein scandal in Hollywood, and the Me Too movement, and all of that. Okay, and so that very much has to do with Jupiter and Scorpio. Scorpio is an energy that has to do with the taboo, the hidden, and dark secrets, and also sexuality and everything else. So Jupiter and Scorpio, things were kind of right on time for that arrival. And ever since then, though, on a personal level, collective level, it has kind of stimulated this closet cleaning within us. So we've been discovering things we've hidden, squashed down, emotions, feeling old emotions, processing old emotions. It's been a bit of a heavy roller coaster in a certain way, in that sense. But with Jupiter now stalling and turning retrograde, it's time to stop uncovering more stuff. We've uncovered enough stuff to deal with for one time, one sitting, and so it's time to kind of put it all on the table and digest it and figure out what we want to focus on. And this is what this Mercury retrograde in Aries is going to have a lot to do with, is really reclaiming our sovereign, authentic focus. Okay, but before I talk about that, just to review the eclipses now. So in the midst of Jupiter and Scorpio and things coming up, etc., these eclipses, the one on January 31st, that was a lunar eclipse in Leo, and that was the completion energy of the total solar eclipse that crossed over the lower 48 back in August. I talked about that before. And so that August eclipse 2017, about opening the heart, making room, making space, clearing the space. Jupiter and Scorpio, then it's kind of when you clear that space, you find all the hidden things in your closet that you forgot were there. And that's what this Jupiter and Scorpio has done. As the space was made in August, Jupiter entered in October, and here we are, really excavating our inner selves in a lot of ways, getting all the secrets out, all of our true feelings out, even if we're the ones that have been blocking them. We're admitting that we've been blocking them, admitting that we haven't quite followed our truth, or that we've allowed issues to prevent us from moving forward. Okay, and so what this lunar eclipse signified on January 31st, and again, the energy of that is still with us here for a few months, but this is the completion. Again, it's the culmination of that. And so with the empty space, the cleansed space, what fills it? And so this is where we're at this spring, is really focusing on what fulfills us. Forget all the noise around us, but what fulfills us, purely and simply, if no one else was around, if we just came from ourselves and didn't have to fit into a tribe or any other group or family kind of setting, what would fulfill us as a sovereign individual? Okay, and then the second eclipse, February 15th, this goes along again with the theme of authenticity and unique path. This new moon eclipse, essentially the solar eclipse that happened in Aquarius, it's all about going our own way. Okay, and so we really have cleared the space, cleared the influences out of us, and that's what we've been processing, is clearing those influences. Some influences become subconscious and drive our experience and drive our decision making. And ultimately, if those influences, even if they were well-intentioned, aren't aligned with who we are, they can lead us down the wrong paths and lead us to less than happy situations, okay, less than fulfilling situations. And so this energy of the eclipses really was about taking on this rush of heart-filled, heart-based energy and going our own way with it, and not being afraid to, cut out what needs to be cut out to do so. Okay, and now here we are. It's March 9th. Like I say, we're halfway between the full moon in Virgo we had last week and the new moon in Pisces next week, and so we are essentially ready to get to work on our spiritual mission. Our highest, what that means is just the highest intention for why you chose to live this life. Okay, that is where we're at now. But in order to really get in touch with that mentally, to connect our mental facilities with that soul level knowingness, that's where this Mercury retrograde comes in. Okay, and so Mercury actually just yesterday, just within hours of Jupiter turning retrograde in Scorpio, Mercury entered the shadow period of its upcoming retrograde, which again will be March 22nd through April 15th. But the shadow period, in other words, the time period when Mercury is going to cover that zone in the sign of Aries between 4 degrees and about 17 degrees Aries, that's going to be, wherever that is in your chart, between 4 and 17 degrees Aries, this is where Mercury is going to go back and forth 3 times. It's going to go forward, backwards, and then forward again through that zone. And so we've entered the zone here on March 8th, yesterday. On March 22nd, it will turn retrograde and go back through the zone. April 15th, it will turn direct and go back, finally make its final run through the zone in a forward motion. Okay, and so we're in the energy now of the Mercury retrograde, just as Jupiter turns retrograde as well. And so again, we've dug up enough. We don't need to dig up anymore. We just need to take what we have dug up. We have to understand that we're ready to dive in on our own path, go our own way, without the influences, without the codependencies, to go in a sovereign motion. And Aries is that baby sign of the zodiac. It's the first sign of the zodiac, and it's very much to do with me, mine, me first. Okay, so that sounds selfish, but to be honest, your highest gift to the world is yourself. And so with this now awareness on a soul level of it's time to go our own way, now we really need to now tie that down to more of a 3D reality, and that's what Mercury retrograde in Aries is going to do here over the next couple of months. So Mercury won't exit the shadow till about early May. So really the period from now through the first few days of May is this Mercury retrograde period, but the actual retrograde happens late March into mid-April. Okay, but what we're going to be going over is, what do I think? These are kind of the themes, for every individual. It can be, but what do I think? It doesn't matter. I know this is the advice I'm getting from a well-intentioned friend or authority or whatever. They're well-intentioned advice, but if it has nothing to do with who you are, it isn't in your best interest. And any of us that have struggled with saying no to something that was a good thing, because it is a good offering, it's well-intentioned, this is an opportunity to, to stop and think first, and not take every offer that comes our way just because it's well-intentioned, because we're all different, and one person's well-intentions for you isn't necessarily what's good for you. And so this is what we're really going to learn about here in the next couple of months, is what we really think. Despite the, the tendency to want to get advice, a tendency to want to seek the counsel of others, what do we think, purely and simply, if we were the only energy in the universe, which, if you think of it in certain ways, if we're all, fractal holes of the universe, we're all representations of the universe, we're all, the entire ocean contained in a drop rather than a drop in the ocean, in a way, it's not that far of a stretch from that ultimate universal reality. And so if you just think of yourself as the wholeness of all it is, what do you want? And channel that through this, partial or whole fractal existence through one being. Okay? And so that's the opportunity here with this Mercury retrograde, is to really get in touch with our own sovereign authority, plain and simple. And with that, as we move through the spring into the summer, we're going to see that Mars is going to go retrograde as well. I'm not going to get too much into the details of Mars right now, but it will be retrograde from late June to late August, so pretty much the entire summer it'll be retrograde, and Jupiter will go direct right in the middle of that retrograde. Okay, and that's going to be a time of really taking or reviewing our actions. What have we accomplished? What haven't we accomplished? And really getting the job done to get aligned with our unique path and to be that unique offering that we are. Okay, that's the energy of the summer, to really only be engaging in activities that align with our souls completely. Okay, and it's going to take that same theme of this new moon solar eclipse we had in February 15th, which is the going our own way, and that's the key, is to go our own way. Now, in the meantime, while we're going through this Mercury retrograde, Mercury is going to square Saturn in Capricorn for pretty much mid-March to the end of April, but it's also going to be forming a square to Mars starting in early April right through the middle of May. Okay, and so these two squares to Saturn and Mars, both in Capricorn, from the sign of Aries, which is where Mercury will be, this really sets up a battle within us. So we're going to have a lot of decisions to make during this time, because we're really deciding on ourselves. Okay, and the real battle is going to be between our inner child and our inner adult, as Aries kind of represents that child energy, that me first child impulse, what do I want energy, and Capricorn really is that inner authority, the rules, the structure, the order, the organization. And so we're going to be going back and forth until we find the balance. Do we find a way to feed both our parent and our child within? So the sooner we can learn how to find a way to feed both, the sooner we're going to find that we have very practical, tangible, solid outlets for what it is that fulfills us. But there may be some struggle here, across from anywhere from mid to late March right on through early to mid-May. Okay, so April especially, plus or minus a couple weeks. It's going to be a real time of, again, trying to not allowing our inner parent to prevent the impulses that are within us, but also not allowing our inner impulses to neglect the more practical and structured organization of what can actually make what fulfills us happen. Okay, so it really is, and the temptation when we have these kinds of energies, these squares, is to claim one and project the other. And so since the major theme of this Mercury retrograde is going our own way, but finding what really fulfills us, what we really think. And so there can be some temptation to seek outside counsel. And honestly, not that it's, I mean, this is not a universal piece of advice, but it works for this time period, and that is you're only going to find answers within yourself these next 2 months. I'm not saying you can't find answers or help from others in general, but the energy of this is a test to see how well we can be our own counsel, because that essentially is the authority within us. How can we be our own authority while honoring the impulses of our child within? Okay, so we can't just jump into the child energy and then go seek outside counsel to tell us how do you direct me into what I want to be, and we can't also just kind of judge our impulses and judge what it is we want and put the kibosh on it and say, that's foolish, that's not going to work. Because if we do that, that can squash us as well. And in that case, we could be looking outside of ourselves for inspiration, right? We could have this whole sense of, concrete things we want to, that we know we can accomplish, but we have no motivation, no inspiration to do so. And so we might seek that from the outside of us. But we have to understand that we possess both. And when we, even though they don't seem to coexist together, when we honor them both and feed them both while respecting their differences, then they can both provide a very beneficial service to our intentions. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, because I feel like that was a good flow of information there, and I don't want to keep you too long. But anyway, so if you have any questions, let me know. You can either contact me through YouTube or go right to my website at sovereignharmony.com. You can always fill out the contact form there. If you're interested in any kind of personal reading or a creating compatibility reading for you and a partner, or for a group or a small group, business, personal, otherwise, I'm available for those too as well. I will be in San Diego County here through mid-March, and then I will be unavailable for a bit. In late March, the 26th to the 29th, I will actually be just in the Denver area, Denver-Boulder area, so I may be available for some things over that 4-day period, March 26th to 29th. After that, it won't be until about mid-April that I'll be around again in San Diego County. So with that, have a great rest of your day here, rest of your Friday. Spring is on the way. Like I said, this Mercury retrograde in Aries is very much spring-like energy. We're resetting our intentions to focus on what we want, and to remove all the cobwebs of the influences that no longer serve us. Okay? So have a good one, and I will see you next time. Thanks a lot.